Namaskaram, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear seekers. It has been a great pleasure and privilege connecting with you and sharing some of my thoughts on the topic of spirituality. We have been discussing about the topic of karma in multiple steps of understanding, as some of these concepts are little complex for a common man to understand and appreciate. We have so far seen five episodes, and in this sixth episode, I would like to share with you some of the concepts which are very important for us to take this subject forward in greater detail. In spirituality, science, like any other science, like physics or chemistry or oceanography, there are certain terminologies which needs to be understood before we could appreciate the deeper meaning of this whole science of spirituality. One of the aspect that we have seen in the last episode, which is episode number 5, that the difference between gross and subtle. I would like to elaborate this subject little more because we are going to discuss much more deeper concepts of subtler aspects of human creation. When we say gross, in English it may have a different meaning, but in the context of spiritual science, gross really means anything that we can recognize with the five senses. For example, the table in front of me, or the flower, or the plant, or tree, they are all cognizable with my five senses. So anything that is of physicality, which is solid in nature, or which can be recognized by the five senses for us to understand, is referred as gross in the science of spirituality. When we see something which are not recognizable with the five senses, they are coming under the domain of subtler aspects of creation. When we say subtler, that means we cannot recognize it with the five senses. For example, we all believe that there is something called atomic structure in every matter that is really forming the building block of all the physical creation. But none of us ever seen the atoms because they are so small, and they may or may not be in the form of a physical matter, and they may be energy form. Hence, they cannot be recognized with the five senses. Even though electron microscope happens to be the largest magnification, even under the electron microscope, we will not be able to see the atom in its true. We cannot see the atoms in its true form, but we all believe that there is something called atom exists. So we can say that recognizing the presence of an atom is a subtler aspects of the creation. That means in Sanskrit they call it as a sukshama buddhi. Sukshama buddhi means the intellect which can recognize something which cannot be understood or which cannot be seen with the five senses. So such of those creations are called subtler. So we all have heard about the five bhutas, which are essentially the Panchabhuta, what they call it, which is the starting point of earth, for example, and fire, water, air, and ether. They are called Panchabhutas. It is believed that our own creation of our body, mind, and intellect are made up of these Panchabhutas. Let me try to explain little more in detail so that we can appreciate the gross and subtler aspect of creation. For example, if you take earth, which is nothing but the mud ball, we call it as earth, which is continuously revolving, is called one of the grossest aspect of the Panchabhutas. When you say gross, means we can recognize the earth with all our five senses. So that is why it is called the grossest of all the Panchabhutas. Our own body is made up of the food that came from this earth. So that means it is not exaggerated when I say that we are made up of the earth, because we cannot sustain life within us without eating food. So the second aspect of the Panchaphuta is the water. Now, one of the characteristics of the gross object is when it is kept in a place, it is not moving on its own. It remains static there. For example, the table or a chair in your home is remaining in the same place without moving. That means the gross object has no ability to move from its own location. But whereas when it becomes water, for example, water starts flowing. That means the object that can flow without remaining static in one place is becoming subtler than the one which is grosser than itself, meaning that water is subtler than the earth. By that, what we really mean is, that means the flowability of the object is slightly increasing as the object is moving from its gross form to the subtler form. So when the earth becomes water, for example, water has no taste basically. We cannot recognize the water with all the five senses, because one of the sense lost its ability to recognize its presence. That means you will see as the object moves from a gross to subtler, one of the senses is not able to recognize it. So the third Panchaphuta is the air, for example. So we all believe that air exists because that is how we are breathing oxygen and then we are continuing to survive. So air cannot be seen, air cannot be tasted. So that means out of the five senses, when the matter is becoming subtler, two more senses have lost its ability to recognize. So you will see some of the characteristics of a subtler object is, one is gradually it is able to pervade. When you say pervade, it really means it is able to occupy a bigger space on its own. For example, the grosser object like earth is remaining in one place, static, but whereas the water is able to start flowing, that means water is pervading more than the earth. If it comes to the question of air, for example, air is pervading larger than the water. That means as the object is becoming subtler and subtler, you will notice that the number of senses which can recognize is getting reduced. At the same time, the object has got the ability to pervade larger space. So we have seen earth as the grossest object. Then we have seen water is little more subtler than the earth, and the air is becoming much more subtler than water, because it is able to pervade a larger space, and also it is hiding itself from the five senses of human being. Coming to the fourth aspect of the Panchaphuta, which is the heat, for example. So heat is something is becoming much more subtler than air itself, because only two senses can recognize the heat. You can see the fire, but you cannot see the heat, for example. So you can feel the heat. You cannot taste the heat. You cannot see the heat. You cannot taste the heat. So that means when it comes to the question of fire, for example, The number of senses which have lost their ability to recognize has significantly reduced. Only one sense can recognize heat. So, as you could see, that when the object is becoming subtler and subtler, the number of senses that can recognize them are reducing. So, coming to the most subtlest of all the object is the space, for example. Space is something is pervading everywhere. We don't know what is the boundary of the space. It is very difficult to see the space because what we are seeing is the object in the space. So human beings find it very difficult to recognize what you mean by space. So space is something when there is no object is there. That means you cannot see the space, you cannot taste the space, you cannot sense the space, and you cannot feel the space, and so on and so forth. That means all the five senses have lost their ability to recognize the space. That means, as you could see, when we are moving from the gross to the subtler objects, they are capable of pervading to a larger space at the same time, and also they are escaping from the capability of human senses to recognize them. So, why we are discussing this? If you take a human being, for example, we are so dependent on the earth, for example, the food coming from the earth. A human being can survive without food for 90 days. After that, the human being cannot survive. So that means our dependability of life is on the earth, for example. Our dependability on water is the next most significant part of our existence. You can be without water maximum for 3 days, beyond which the human system cannot be sustained without water. And our body contains 70% water. That shows that a small reduction in the water leads to dehydration and loss of consciousness. So our life is sustained in water. The third aspect is the fire, that is heat, for example. The third aspect is the air, for example. So we cannot survive without breathing for more than probably 1 minute or so. After that, our life sustaining prana will disappear and then we will die. So that means as the objects are becoming grosser and grosser, our dependability of life increases. The fourth aspect is the heat. The moment somebody dies, they touch the body and see it becomes completely cold. That means life is sustained by heat. Our body requires heat, which is converted from the food that we are eating. So that means the heat is becoming the most important aspect of life. So without the warm situation in our body, we will not be able to survive even for a couple of seconds. And the fifth aspect is the space, for example. So you will see that the space occupies everything. In fact, the science says that the entire cosmos contains only 1% matter and 99% is the empty space. So that means without the space, human beings cannot have a sense of freedom. For example, if somebody is locked inside a 10 by 10 room, they feel suffocated as though they have been put in a jail. But when the same person is given 100 by 100 feet, then they feel little bit of sense of freedom. So that means our psyche is very large extent depends on the space around us, which is becoming more and more critical for our survival. So in this session, what we have seen is the spirituality stems around the concept of gross and subtler. That means if you want to make advancement in the spiritual science, it is extremely important to have Suchama Buddhi. That means we must be able to recognize the subtler aspects of creation more than the grosser aspects of creation. Unfortunately, all human beings are more obsessed with the grossest aspect of life. When you are so obsessed with the grossest aspect of life, you totally miss the subtler aspect of life, which is most critical for our peace of mind and health and prosperity. I hope you like this session and it built up. I hope you like the session with the building blocks that are absolutely essential for us to move forward in the next session, where I am going to explain the subtler aspect of our own creation. God bless you. Thank you very much for your patronage and look forward to share with you more and more valuable spiritual science lessons with you, which will definitely improve the quality of your life. God bless you. Take care.